Well, few cold cases in Madison have captured the imagination quite like the mystery of the skeleton in the chimney. It was found at a local music shop in the late 1980s.
This has been the #1 most popular article on our website, Channel 3000, for the past 3 days.
It was written by columnist and author Doug Moe for an article in Madison Magazine, and Doug joins us now.
Hi, Doug. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Fascinating tale. For people who are new to the area, what's the story? What's the background?
Well, it was Labor Day weekend, 1989, and a guy named Steve Lethan, who had recently purchased or was opening a music store, Good and Loud Music, on University Avenue near a Perkins restaurant, was doing some work in his basement. He needed get an old boiler out of there, and he was looking at he had a leaky pipe as well, so he's looking out at this 10-foot pipe that went out and then right-angled up to the chimney. And at the base of that right angle, he looked and he saw a skeleton and some other bones.
This is some footage we shot back in 1989.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge story then. You know, he called the police, obviously, and Jim Gran, probably their top detective, got on the case. And there were some wrinkles in it pretty quickly. It turned out it was a skeleton. They figured out with some medical help that he was 5'5", 5'6" or so, dressed in women's clothes, but it turned out 93% chance the skeleton was a male. So there was that element to it. They couldn't figure out, was it, you know, a robbery gone bad?
Or a murder,
you know, or did somebody, you know, deposit that skeleton after a crime? And it really has baffled detectives for over 30 years now. Madison Magazine editors knew that I had written some true crime in the past.
Yes.
I had never written about this case. So recently they asked me, is there a case you'd like to write about? Try a cold case story. And I thought of this one, not knowing, then when I got into it, it turns out it's actually heated up a little bit for a cold case. I ended up talking to the current Madison police detective, Lindsay Ludden, who's working it, and she's been working with rootless hair that they found along with the skeletal bones. They've been sent to a laboratory in California, and she's got her fingers crossed that they're going to extract enough DNA that then now with all this genealogy, GEDmatch it's called, it's a public genealogy platform.
Because that didn't exist back then, right?
Right, and what will happen if they get the DNA, they'll have it's called a genome type. They'll give that to the genealogist. They'll build a family tree. And then give that to the police, and like if there's a family member who went missing in the late 80s, the police would then contact the family and try to identify that person.
And there's no way of knowing how long that body was in the chimney.
Well,
when they found it.
They put it roughly at 2 months to 2 years.
Oh, so is that I mean, just bones left after that amount of time?
Yeah. And again, that was scientists taking a look at it. They sent it out to the Smithsonian, and they were able to construct, you know, kind of a mock what they thought this person might look like. So that picture ran in the papers.
That was. It must have been a huge. Was it a huge story here? It was a little before my time.
Our friend George Hesselberg wrote about it every year. Every year, you know. Thinking that somebody would come forward. And actually 30 years on, in 2012, a woman contacted George and said she was retiring from the state capitol, and she thought, and it had always bothered her because she saw the renderings back years ago, she thought it might be a Capitol Page. And she didn't have a name, but she was sure she'd seen that face. And so they tried that again back in 2012, but that didn't go anywhere. So.
And the building's gone now.
Building's gone. I found the owner, Steve Lethan. He's down in Florida, the former Good and Loud owner, and you know he hadn't talked about the case publicly. So he was willing to talk to me, and I remember he said when he called the police, they said, "Is the person breathing?" And he said, "I really don't think so."
The bones are breathing.
Right.
So is the furnace used? Is that why just bones left?
Hard to say. I mean, if it was 2 years, I think it probably would have. It would, you know, decomposed. The robbery theory I don't buy because it was a Christian bookstore and a bakery before that, so it's not like somebody would go in.
Not a lot of money
for you know have a good robbery motive. And Gran, the detective that worked it for so many years, is convinced it was foul play.
And it was so frustrating for police officials. In the article, you write a lot about that.
Yeah, he calls it his most.
Them.
Yeah, you know, he solved, or was the lead guy to help solve the Carolyn Hudson, the contract killing. You know, he was a terrific homicide detective, but this one always has bugged him. And you can't solve it unless you, probably until you know who that person was. So that's why it's so important that this DNA comes through, you know. They'll at least know.
Another must-read from Doug Moe. It's online.
Channel3000.com, yeah.
Magazine.
It's fascinating.
If you get an update, let us know.
Yes, please do.
You bet.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Good
you
to
guys.
see you.
Yeah.